Just going live from the current location. I'm not certain that this is the exact best setup right now. Just prop this like this. Um, so some topics to discuss. I can attempt to rotate this device really fast. So I get concerned about the integrity of the mechanics of this luggage here, this rolling luggage, where I don't want to damage the wheels because I have to allow for this to be viable for as long as possible and ruin something that is extremely helpful. So if okay, I will sit like this. So some topics to discuss, expectations, priorities, fundamental values and principles, and evaluating and assessing odds ratios, if that's the most productive, concise way to stay respectful and responsible and accountable for self, despite a very, very, very not optimal situation. So for me, I am married, so no matter what's going on in my life, my marriage and my husband are always my priority. And I fundamentally really remain committed to not compromising our fundamental values and principles. Not every stranger has the same fundamental hierarchy, even if they are or aren't in a significant relationship defined as marriage. So me and my husband, we love each other, so we shouldn't have to say our marriage is a legal agreement. But sometimes, because that almost diminishes how much I love him and I miss him and all of that. And so I always make sure to signify that I'm checking in with him so that when he's able to review, he can see that he's at the forefront for all that's going on, despite me physically being here by myself, not able to see myself, that I'm still connected to him. I'm still making the effort. I'm always connected to him. That's the best way to say that. And sometimes so many people, the topic of shunning and then outcasting and the commitment to harm, the intent harm, the criminology, that's the other topic. But we can't proceed as if we're a detective or an agent, right? So we always have to proceed with no preconceived notion. And we really don't look to denigrate people as far as the topic of coping and the choice of vocabulary at times and how we pace ourselves through this situation, understanding that while we don't assume, we always stay responsible for ourselves as far as social etiquette, and we don't assume that every stranger encounter is going to be a negative encounter, but unfortunately, that's usually how these situations go. So many, I would say the most rampant issue is that nobody respects that I'm married at all. They don't respect me, they don't respect my husband, and if they don't respect me, they don't respect my husband, they don't respect us, they don't respect our family. As far as the economics of the situation, while the topic of shunning and outcasting and the criminology, when people are stalking, right? So people will they're visibly in the same area, either a few blocks away, and that's why we've discussed the Wi-Fi networks and the VPN numbers and the necessity to kind of rotate the networks that we're able to access for various reasons. And really quickly though, some people that are considered to be extremely successful in life will say that they only spend time with a certain profile of an individual even if they're married, that they're networked professionally. Like if they work in an office building, they don't say hi to certain people, or they might have social etiquette of a greeting and salutation and conclusion, but they don't really spend time with people that might look a certain way, may conduct themselves a certain way in public. And so today I was able to participate in some routine hygiene, and we've discussed at length the challenges with being shunned or outcasted because I'm being stalked and harassed and terrorized, and then the topic of credibility and how people have tried to damage my credibility, and the challenges associated with the covert, overt obstruction to the truth. I've been denied my documents, and I can't see myself anywhere. And everyone around me that can see me is learning that if they look, like if another woman enters the restroom, if I'm in just a woman only restroom, because the unisex restrooms are only one toilet, they're starting to look to the mirror and they're mortified, if that's the correct evaluation. This is almost like they're in the stages of having a full-blown existential dread panic attack because they can't see why that's happening. If that's the correct way to say that. And so they literally have to brace themselves to look. And then they have nowhere to go to report, correct? So we remain committed to documenting, and hair care, the economics of hair care and clothing, we've been so progressive. And there's no, we can't rationalize and excuse a lack of self-care. And we've discussed student life here. They're student athletes, they're academics that work, they study, they work round the clock, and that's student life. And we have discussed, though, the prestige associated with this university. Usually, men and women are to be in uniform at these kinds of academic institutions. So I don't know where the president of the university is at with that. And I don't know if that's something that would make student life here more easier, right? So the loading dock situation, the guy that calls himself Mr. Joseph or Mr. Ed, is not viable. And as far as like coping in a step-by-step process, when in this situation, I can't fatigue and blame or displace the reality of this shouldn't be the situation, and I can't expect people to understand. I always have to work towards a solution, but there are a lot of people that might be learning about what's going on, and we do need support for them to discuss and distinguish why this is such a major problem. And as far as infection control and the biological warfare and all of that, this is just not realistic. This isn't something that people should attempt to rationalize and normalize as a sustainable way of hospitality, tourism, collective community, gatherings of social etiquette or risk if there's like a block party or the university is hosting an event. Now, well, who's catering the food? Who's providing the food? You know, if we're talking about infection control as far as droplet precautions or universal precautions, now there's just so many variables that are so high risk that with how prestigious the university is, it's very tough to understand how this is being sustained. So as far as how people explicitly quantify, well, I don't vote, or I in the past have chosen not to vote because politics, there's corruption associated with politics, or I don't know that I'm always getting the truth. Maybe they didn't always have the practical examples of how that infiltrated the community, right? The geographic community of where they might work, leisurely socialize with their family or their friends or their coworkers or former classmates or mates who are in that. This is just like really tough. So for the guy who works with Allied Security, who's been so disrespectful to try to take a tone with me as if I've been loitering or soliciting when this was such an inconvenience for us. And that's like where I have to stay emotionally responsible for myself. And I don't know how people that are actually professional that weren't aiding and abetting what's going on, I don't know how they would more constructively discuss this, because the level of dysfunction that's been ongoing and insidious has successfully been my life since I've been displaced here. So I really try not to be disrespectful. Any person could have a moment of a hair out of place, right? Any person could have a moment of perspiration, of, hyperpigmentation related to sun exposure or dry skin, or like presentation really matters. Body odor, no body odor, your hemline, all that stuff really, really matters, which is why when people are trying to like force me naked, we went with the athleisure wear, like spandex and everything like that, to stay covered and to minimize snags. That's the right way to say that. And if we had to rinse the garments, we needed to have material that realistically could dry. That has been the biggest issue. We can't hand wash anything in the sink because we have nowhere to dry the items, and we're not playing victim, just like realistically managing this. We can't allow mold spores or mildew or anything like that to get on our clothing. So it's just one of the challenges. We're in a situation where the climate, the temperatures might shift. I don't know what to expect for the season. But storing our stuff somewhere, this is just like the same issue. Sometimes I wonder if sheltering in place is realistic. As far as Sean over off of Woodland, I don't think that that's viable. He was living a recreational lifestyle that was compromising my safety, and he was kind of like the guy at the loading dock, where he was not able to take responsibility for his behaviors and how he was or wasn't coping with whatever he was or wasn't trying. I'm not saying this to be rude, but whatever his goals were in life, he was really of no assistance to me. And so these are situations where, because I'm a woman and I'm a white woman, there's this for every woman, not just this is not a good situation. And I've been very forthright with that. And the most consistent challenge has been that people don't respect me. They don't respect that I'm married. And really, that's kind of, we're extremely traditional, and that's how people should know me first. They should know that I'm married. So we're extremely private. But I want to be certain that I was best able to mention the topics for expansion of conversation. And to sit here this evening, we don't struggle with powerlessness and helplessness, if that's the right way to discuss that. And we just want to make sure that we are staying as responsible as we can. And so now, where there had been some sort of charity available to us, and that's how we have to term this, right? Because for whatever reason, like, I don't know if my husband wants more information, and so that's the only reason. One second. So if my husband says that however he determines that we're proceeding, but I don't have the, there were times where I wanted to trust that he knew what was going on, and then I learned that that was not the situation. So now I just like want to really make sure that. So as far as getting acclimated to, well, if I can find a job as like a busser, like 2 days a week. Because if I don't have somewhere to legitimately stash our stuff, that's why we were trying to, I wasn't able to find the Office for University of the Sciences to get an explicit formalized agreement to access that property, and they would have to move Sean off the property because he was being too problematic. He was saying that the university gave him, I say this with the utmost respect, I don't know if he was being poisoned, but he said that the university gave him permission to be there, that they were allowing him to strip the building. But then he wouldn't give me the contact information for the people that he spoke to. And then he said it was his dad, his friend's dad, and he wouldn't give me a name or contact information. And then he was kind of just like belligerent. And I don't know if it was because he was being poisoned and he was just struggling with the fact that, like, I think he worked as a paralegal and he had a relationship or didn't have a relationship in the relationship. I'm not trying to put his business out there, but you know, people try to have relationships with people and the relationship doesn't work out. I guess he'd been with one girl for like 8 years, but she didn't want him to move in. So I don't know if that was the truth or if that was not the truth, or that she really took the relationship seriously. But 8 years is like a really long time to, you know, kind of just casually be involved with someone. So he obviously he claimed that he wanted to have kids, but then nothing about his life, from what I was able to learn, supported that. And then he lost his mom, I guess, in 2012. But if he's actually one of our biological brothers, and I don't know, I don't want to be disrespectful. And he, yeah, I don't want to be disrespectful. So I had wondered if I was able to contact my husband and find out if we may not want to be at that location for many reasons, but just mainly associate it with, have we been paid, right? So we may not want to, I initially was wondering, well, how much would it cost to renovate that property? Because if it's our land, did someone pay a mortgage on this, or did they not pay a mortgage? They try to steal the deed for a property that's actually ours. I don't know. Trying to figure out all this stuff. And Sean was just like getting in the way. And then he would go through these like fits through, he would sleep during the day. And then by the time I would be trying to get rest, he would be in and out of the building, slamming the door and talking to himself. And he did mention that he talks to himself, and sometimes he needed someone to talk to. I couldn't be that for him. And I tried to set the boundaries, but I guess he was really struggling. And he said he had attempted to go to rehab, but I don't know. He said that they didn't accept his insurance. So he acknowledged that he had a substance misuse challenge, but I don't know. I don't know if I would say that he did or didn't really want help. I don't know. And then I tried to contact Dad, if that's the best way to say that, but I don't know why that wasn't effective, even from the point of proximity of what would have been. I don't know. So I was wondering if able to speak to whoever was managing the property, if we could just change the locks. That way, if Sean wanted to be there, he could lock the door. And then if I needed to get there, the property would be secure and I would be able to get in if he was passed out during the day. But that was also the other issue. If he was trying to wean himself off of illegal, like illicit street drugs, there was a risk for overdose. I'm married. I need to know where my husband's at. And if he was like a cousin or whatever, I had initially wondered if my husband would prefer for me to just be at home, like with a family member that's like a peer, because we're not going to settle and be disrespected, if that's the best way to say that. But there was no Wi-Fi, there was no plumbing, there was some electric. So that could have worked to a certain, I was really trying to figure out what resources were available to get that place renovated and optimize the space. And Sean just like wasn't on board. I don't know if if his masculinity was threatened. I don't know. But me and my husband were we evaluate and assess all topics together. So my husband would never be threatened by me contributing to the process of working towards a solution. So I just don't understand. But we're married, so we can't keep. I don't know what to say. I don't have anything productive to say. But it seems like he might be recreationally using drugs again. So. He had said some stuff that was not helpful. Is that okay? Should I stop?
Yeah.
So the space was big enough where we could put gym equipment in there. And I mean, I miss my husband so much, but I was trying to get a home set for him, for us to be at here. Anyway, I don't want to be rude to people or